As I walked through the city streets late at night, I noticed something strange. People were walking faster than usual, hurrying away from me as though afraid of something lurking in the shadows. My natural curiosity piqued. I began asking questions of anyone who would listen, trying to figure out just what had everyone spooked. Over time, I heard whispers of faceless creatures prowling the alleys after dark, haunting the imaginations of those unlucky enough to catch sight of them. Dismissive at first, I chalked up such tales as little more than urban myths created by overactive imaginations. Still, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't quite right. As I continued my investigation, I came across more and more witnesses, each describing similar encounters with the faceless fiends. Eyewitness accounts spoke of shadowy figures moving silently along walls, their faces obscured by darkness. Some claimed to have caught glimpses of glowing red eyes peering forth from underneath hoodies, pulled low to conceal whatever lay beneath. With each interview, the terror etched upon the witnesses' faces grew stronger, compelling me further down this twisted path. It wasn't until I received word of a possible sighting near a local abandoned warehouse that things took a turn for the worst. Arriving at the location just past midnight, I found myself surrounded by nothing but crumbling concrete buildings and rusted metal structures. Feeling exposed and alone, I pushed forward, determined not to miss my chance at discovering the truth behind the faceless ones. Peering inside the warehouse, I barely made out the shape of something moving in the distance. Fear clawing at my heart, I stepped closer, unable to ignore the call of adventure or adrenaline coursing through my veins. At first glance, I didn't see anything amiss. But upon second look, I noticed the wall beside me trembling ever so slightly. As I turned around to investigate, a cold breath brushed against my neck, causing every hair on my body to stand upright. Panic set in as I realized I wasn't alone. Something sinister stood suddenly. Everything went dark as the lights flickered and died, plunging me into complete and utter blindness. Terror consumed me as I felt the presence of the faceless thing closing in around me. Icy fingers slid across my skin, leaving trails of frost in their wake. Heart racing, I tried to run, but my legs refused to move, rooting me firmly to the spot. I could hear its laborious breaths echoing throughout the abandoned warehouse, accompanied by the sound of scraping nails against rough brickwork. Its voice, distorted and muffled, pierced my very soul, urging me to join its legion of the damned. "Come, child," it hissed. "Let us show you true power." And then, just like that, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the room once again. I blinked rapidly, struggling to adjust my vision, wondering whether the encounter with the faceless one was merely a hallucination brought about by fear and fatigue. I spotted something glinting in the corner of my eye and raced toward it, hoping it might hold answers to my many questions. Upon reaching the object, I discovered a small journal filled with cryptic notes regarding forbidden rituals and sacrificial offerings. Realization hit hard. These faceless monsters weren't simply lurking shadows, but actual beings empowered by human blood. My initial skepticism vanished as I read on, learning of cultists attempting to create avatars of pure evil, imbued with otherworldly powers. One entry detailed a secretive group of individuals obsessed with transcending mortality by embracing chaos incarnate. Another spoke of creating an army of possessed soldiers bent on spreading discord and destruction wherever they went. Horror engulfed me as I understood the gravity of the situation. These faceless creatures represented not just some simple paranormal phenomenon, but a malevolent force bubbling below society's surface. With newfound determination, I dedicated myself to exposing these supernatural horrors, vowing never to rest until the world learned the truth. But as I left the abandoned aware of the danger ahead, I pressed forward, navigating the dim alleys and deserted streets. Each step took me deeper into unknown territory, where the slightest misstep could lead to disaster. The air hummed with a palpable sense of dread, heightening my senses as I moved closer to my goal, finding the source of these faceless abominations. With no backup and only my bravery as my shield, I ventured into areas long since forgotten by civilized society. Here, madmen, street thugs, and worse hid within shadows, waiting for unsuspecting prey to stumble into their clutches. One evening, during my relentless search, I came upon a dilapidated tenement building on the edge of town, seemingly devoid of life. But as I drew closer, I detected a faint pulse emanating from within. Cautiously approaching the entrance, I noticed something peculiar. The door hung loosely from its hinges, swinging eerily back and forth. Despite the obvious warning signs, I refused to let caution rule my action. Stepping inside the musty foyer, I immediately picked up on a putrid odor, like rotten meat mixed with mildew. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, yet I remained steadfast, unwilling to abandon my quest. Through narrow corridors and decrepit rooms, I followed the pungent smell until it led me to a single door, closed tight. With no hesitation, I burst through the barrier, prepared for any outcome. What confronted me shocked even my most macabre expectations. Inside, I found myself face to face with the masterminds orchestrating the rise of the faceless ones. Cultists practicing their diabolical arts, chanting incantations while performing ritualistic acts upon innocents. Their eyes blazed with fanaticism, fueled by promises of immortality and ultimate control. This den of heretics formed the crux of the faceless menace festering in our world. I knew that taking action here would be paramount to halting the spread of these dark forces, and so without delay I launched myself into combat. Chaotic struggles ensued as I battled against the with an unholy fervor as they turned to face me, their faces twisted into grotesque masks of twisted pleasure. I stumbled backward in shock, the realization of the danger I was in washing over me. But before I could even begin to form a plan of escape, the cultists began closing in on me, their movements jerky and unnatural. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding in my chest, until I felt something cold and unyielding against my back. Trapped with nowhere to run, I watched as the cultists advanced, their eyes never leaving me. One of them reached out to touch me, their fingers almost brushing my skin, when suddenly the air was filled with a bright light, blinding me and causing the cultists to recoil in horror. Through the haze, I could make out the silhouette of a figure standing in the doorway, holding some kind of weapon. The cultists screamed in rage and fear, but the figure remained steadfast, firing their weapon with precision. The cultists fell one by one, their bodies convulsing as they succumbed to the weapon's power. As the last of the cultists fell to the ground, the figure turned to me, their face hidden behind a mask. "We need to leave now," they said, their voice urgent. I didn't hesitate, following the figure out of the tenement building and into the night. As we ran through the deserted streets, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. But at the same time, I knew that this was far from over. The faceless creatures, the cultists, the weapon, all of it was just the tip of the iceberg. There was a whole world of darkness lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. And I was determined to uncover it no matter the cost. For just $3 a month, you can have your name featured in my YouTube videos and descriptions. Not only will you be supporting my channel, but you'll also be immortalized in the credits of my content. If you're looking for something a bit more personalized, consider becoming a $25 a month patron. I'll voice your stories and bring them to life on my channel. Create a special drawing just for you, or even write a unique story tailored to your interests. So don't hesitate. Join my patron community today and help me keep the spooky stories coming. And remember, together we can save each other from the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for your support.